Hi, grade 3 students. This is the video solution of the third science worksheet in which we're answering questions about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. As a reminder, flowers are made. Now we're talking here about basic phases of sexual reproduction. We said that reproduction happens in 3 different phases: pollination, fertilization, and fructification. Pollination is the process of moving pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. Fertilization is when pollen grains present their pollen tubes and make sperms that move from the stigma or from the pollen grains into the ovary, and when these sperms meet the egg, we will get seeds. This is fertilization. Fructification is the process of growing fruits. We said that sometimes for plants for plants that grow fruits, the ovary turns into a fruit. What are the different parts of a flower? Flowers are made of four basic parts. Petals. The group of petals is the corolla. Group of sepals, calyx. Pistil and stamen. We said that the pistil is the female reproductive organ made of 3 different parts: stigma, style, ovary. The stamen is the male reproductive part with anther and filament. I'll move directly to question number 1. Annotate the flower diagram below. So this is the diagram of a flower, and we'll start writing the different parts of the flower. I will start with the petals. Petals are the colored parts of a flower. Again, the group of petals is called the corolla. The leaf-like structures are the sepals, and the group of sepals is called the calyx. Let me move right now to the stamen. So this is the stamen. The stamen, the male reproductive organ, is made of 2 different parts, which are the head, the anther, responsible of producing pollen grains, and the filament that holds this anther. So the stamen is made of 2 parts: anther and filament. This is for sure the pistil or the carpel. Both answers or both names are correct. This female part, is made of 3 different parts: the stigma, the style, and the last part that acts like a belly to hold the babies inside, which is the ovary. Inside the ovary we have the eggs called the ovules. Observe the diagram, then match correctly. B is the anther. The anther's function is to produce pollen grains. So let's look for the sentence saying that makes pollen grains. So we should match the letter B, which is pointing to the anther, to this sentence. B is the anther that makes pollen grains. C, let's check. C is pointing to the petals. Petals are the colored part of the flower with beautiful smells. So these parts' job or function is to attract insects and pollinators to the plant. So it's this sentence right here: attracts pollinators with its color. So they're talking right here about petals. D, sepals. So sepals are the leaf-like structures that protect the flower when it's a bud when it's small and young. So it's the third sentence: protects the flower as it grows. Okay. G, sorry. G is the ovules inside the ovary. So these ovules will turn into seeds after pollination and fertilization. So turns into a seed after fertilization. They're talking here about the ovules, and letter G points to the ovules. E is the ovary, the fat part of the pistil. This ovary will turn into a fruit after fructification. So I'm going to choose this sentence, and we still have the last sentence: holds the ovule, and we're talking right here also about the ovary. The ovary is the flower's part that holds the ovules. Complete the table with the following terms: pollination, fructification, and fertilization. Fixation of the pollen grains on the pistil. What do we call when pollen grains are moved from the anther to the stigma? It's for sure the pollination process. Union of the male cell with the female cell. The process of fertilization means when the sperms, which are the male cells, are combined or meet the female eggs, the female cells, which are the ovules. So here we're talking about the fertilization process, and when the ovary turns into fruit, we say that it's the fructification process happening right here. So again, I'll repeat: during pollination, pollen grains are moved from the male anther to the female stigma with the help of the wind of different animals called pollen helpers or pollinators. During fertilization, pollen grains present pollen tubes and they produce sperms. The sperms move down to the ovules found in the ovary. When sperms meet and combine with the ovules, seeds are formed. This is fertilization. Sometimes, and here we're talking about plants that grow fruits, the ovary turns into a fruit. This process is called fructification. Okay, we have a document in question number 3. I will start directly with the questions, then I will refer to the document to find the answers. Refer to the above document to answer the questions. Indicate the function of the agents of pollination. What are the agents of pollination? Pollination is facilitated by insects, wind, water, or animals. Hence, they are called agents of pollination. So what is the job of the agents of pollination? Is to facilitate the pollination process. So I'm gonna write it right here. The agents of pollination facilitate the pollination process in plants. And these agents of pollination can be wind, water, insects, different animals. Pick out from the document the definition of pollination. We all know the definition or what pollination means, but we should take it from the text. Let's read. Insects, bright-colored flowers attract insects which tend to sit on these flowers. Pollen grains stick to the insect bodies and are transferred when the insect goes to another flower. So, pollination is when pollen grains are transferred from a flower to another flower. So I'm gonna write it here. Pollination happens when pollen grains are transferred from a flower to another, or sometimes in the same flower. Indicate how plants that live in water get pollinated. Plants that live in water are aquatic plants. Aquatic plants are plants that live in water. So, how pollination happens? Aquatic plants release pollen grains into water. Water takes these pollen grains for pollination. So that's what we're going to write by water. So again, aquatic plants or plants that live in water, they produce the pollen grains. They release them into the water will take them to another plant for pollination. Give the names of 3 different pollen helpers or agents of pollination. Without looking at the document, we know that wind, water, and animals are pollen helpers, or we call them pollinators, or agents of pollinations. So they have different names for the same function. They pollinate plants. By pollination or during pollination, pollen grains are moved from the anther, from the male part to the female part. We're done.